How many times have you felt that just one sentence, one unpleasant look, or a tiny situation is enough to make you explode and lose control? Emotions run ahead of reason. Your mouth speaks words that you later regret. And just a few seconds, a single impulsive moment, can break a relationship or haunt you for an entire day. In life, very few people realize that they are handing over their own power to others. When someone touches the right weak spot, we immediately react like a matchstick catching fire. But the truth worth reflecting on is this: it is not the other person who hurts us. It is the fire rising within that causes the deepest pain. The Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." When you react too quickly, you lose the freedom within your mind. When you let emotions control you, you become a slave to circumstances. But what if there was a way to step out of that cycle? What if you could watch the storm without becoming the storm? Imagine someone who can stand firm in the middle of chaos. The wind blows, hurtful words rush in, yet their heart remains still, their mind remains clear. No one can take away their peace. That person is not emotionless. That person is the master of themselves, and you can absolutely become that person. In today's journey, we will explore 7 profound lessons rooted in the wisdom of the Buddha. These lessons will help you understand how your emotions work, release what makes you easily explode, and rediscover a new kind of strength, the strength of non-reaction. Once you truly understand this, you will step into a much more liberated life. And now, it is time to begin with the first lesson. If you want to stop being affected, you must transform from the root. It begins with letting go of what your mind is clinging to. Lesson 1. Detachment is inner power. When you look back at the moments you were hurt, you may realize that the pain did not come from what others did, but from what you expected them to do. You expect people to always respect you. You expect the one you love to always understand and be gentle with you. You expect life to always go according to your plans. So just one sentence said wrong, one look that does not meet your hopes, one silence that comes at the wrong time. The mind begins to storm. Emotions flare up, and we call that being triggered. But the true nature of it is that we depend too much on external things, hoping they will give us a sense of safety and value. In Buddhist teachings, this clinging is called upadana. It is like holding tightly onto a rope that is pulling you deeper into suffering, while believing you cannot let go. You want to be loved, but you attach your self-worth to people's praise or criticism. You want success, but you tie your happiness to the results. When praise disappears, when success does not arrive, the mind wavers immediately, because you have handed the authority over your feelings to the outside world. Imagine a tree in a storm. If its roots are deeply grounded into the earth, the wind may blow and the rain may fall hard, but it will remain standing. But if its roots are shallow and weak, just a small gust of wind can uproot it. The human mind works the same. When we cling to the external world, the mind becomes like a tree without roots. Someone praises you, the mind rises high. Someone criticizes you, the mind sinks low. Someone does not meet your expectations, the mind burns with anger. Life becomes an emotional swing going up and down so much that you become exhausted. The Buddha taught that whatever you cling to will bind you, but when you release it, you become free. Letting go does not mean indifference or apathy. Letting go means loving without depending. It means giving your best effort without using the outcome as the measure of your worth. It means treating others with kindness without demanding that they must return the exact same kindness to you. Letting go is shifting from a mentality of possession to a state of wholeness. You offer goodness simply because that is your true nature, not to trade for someone else's approval. Take a simple example from everyday life. At work, you put in your best effort, but your boss does not acknowledge it right away. If your mind is attached to the need to be praised or rewarded, frustration and disappointment will arise instantly. But if you focus only on the fact that you gave your best, the feelings of ease and confidence will always remain with you. Or in love, when you care for someone, you hope they will always text you on time, always understand your emotions. If they reply a bit late, you may think they no longer love you. But if you love with wholeness and do not tie your happiness to their responses, you will not be easily swept into insecurity and doubt. True happiness appears when you know that your worth does not lie in what others say about you. It lies in how you honor yourself. When you release attachment, you are no longer controlled by external changes. You begin to stand stronger in the face of emotional storms. And from that point, your mind begins to observe instead of reacting immediately. This is the first transformation that makes you someone who cannot be easily shaken by anything. Now that you understand the root of why we are so easily triggered, we will move to the next lesson. A lesson about observing emotions without letting emotions take control. Because only when the mind learns to observe can the mind truly be free. Lesson 2. Observe. Don't absorb. When you begin to release attachment, the next step is learning how to observe, rather than immerse yourself in the emotions and energy of others. Most of the time, we do not react to the truth itself. We react to the stories our mind creates after the truth. For example, someone says, "You did not do well." That is all. But the mind immediately creates a series of interpretations. Why did they dare say that? Do they look down on me? Do they not understand how hard I tried? Within seconds, from one simple sentence, anger amplifies the situation into a huge emotional wave inside you. But if you pause for a moment and look more closely, you may realize that the person who spoke those words might also be stressed. They are carrying their own pressures. That energy spills over onto you unintentionally. You do not have to carry all of it. You only need to observe that the emotion is there, and then let it dissolve on its own. The Buddha taught that all emotions are impermanent. They arise and they fade. They appear and they settle. No emotion lasts forever. But we often hold tightly to them and let them control us as if they were absolute truth. Imagine your mind as a calm lake. When someone throws a stone into it, the surface will ripple. But ripples are a natural reaction. They will settle again. The lake does not keep the stone. It does not cling to what does not belong to it. We, on the other hand, tend to keep the stone. We hold on to words that hurt us. We hold on to attitudes that injure us. We hold on to other people's emotions and make them our own. That is when we absorb energy we do not need to. If a colleague criticizes you unfairly in front of others, your mind tightens immediately. Your pride is struck. You want to argue, explain, prove you are right. But if you can stop for a moment, instead of exploding, you only observe. You feel the heat rising in your stomach, your heart beating faster, your facial muscles tightening. You silently say to yourself, "I am feeling hurt." Just one simple sentence creates a small space between you and the emotion. You are no longer swept away instantly. This skill is called emotional labeling. Instead of saying, "I am angry," say, "Anger is present in me." When you change the wording, you change your position. Instead of being the one reacting, you become the one observing. Emotions are no longer a terrifying monster in the dark. You bring them into the light, and once they are seen, they lose the power to control you. Breathing and body awareness meditation in Vipassana is also based on this principle. You focus only on your breath. You feel the chest rise and fall. When a thought or emotion appears, you do not try to push it away. You do not chase after it. You simply acknowledge it, like a cloud passing through the sky. It comes and goes. The sky remains vast and still. Your mind is the sky. Emotions are only visitors. Do not let them become the owners of your inner space. As you observe more, you will discover something amazing. You can stand outside your own reactions. You see the exact moment when you would normally explode. You realize you have another choice. You can stay silent. You can smile. You can keep peace within yourself. And when that happens, you are no longer controlled by someone else's words or actions. Life will continue to throw stones into the lake of your mind. But you can choose not to hold on to the stone. You can let the lake ripple briefly and then return to calmness. And when you become better at observing, you will gradually notice the precious pause before reaction. That pause is power, and that is exactly what we will explore in the next lesson. The lesson about the moment that allows you to reclaim freedom in your own mind. Lesson 3. The power of pause. When you have learned to observe without absorbing, the next step is to learn how to pause. Because sometimes we do notice emotions rising, but we do not have enough time to stop ourselves from reacting. A single sentence spoken cannot be taken back. One action driven by anger can leave us regretting it for days. That is why the Buddha pointed out a subtle yet powerful truth that very few people pay attention to. It is the tiny moment between being triggered and reacting in return. That moment lasts only a few seconds, but it is the very doorway to inner freedom. When someone irritates you, when someone offends you with harsh words, when a sudden situation causes you to lose your calm, your body immediately reacts. Your heart beats faster, your breath shortens, your muscles tighten. The brain instantly commands you to defend yourself. But if in that very moment you pause for just one beat, everything changes. You can practice the 3-second rule. Inhale deeply, hold the breath in your chest, then exhale slowly. In those 3 seconds you interrupt the automatic reaction. You return your mind to conscious control. You give yourself time to ask a very important question. Does this reaction actually serve me? If I speak right now, will I regret it? If I explode, will the outcome be what I truly want? Most of the time, the answer is no. Let us look at a familiar situation at home. You return from work tired. A family member unintentionally blames you for something. Your emotions flare instantly. Normally you react. Then both of you argue. Distance grows. But if this time you pause for 3 seconds, you inhale, feel the heat rising in your body. You exhale, acknowledging that your mind is being triggered. Then you choose silence or gently say, I understand you are worried. Let us talk slowly when we are calm. With that one small shift, the relationship is saved, and you keep peace in your heart. Pausing allows you to separate yourself from the instinct to react. Instinct is programmed to defend and attack, but a mindful mind is different. It knows that true victory is not in proving you are right or better than someone else. True victory lies in protecting harmony, preserving peace, and keeping your heart from being hurt any further. The Buddha once said that the human mind is like a vehicle on the road of life. If there are no brakes, accidents are inevitable. The pause is that brake. No one can drive safely without knowing how to stop, and no one can live peacefully if they do not know how to stop reacting before it is too late. When you practice pausing more often, you will realize that silence is not a failure. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the strongest choice you can make to avoid losing yourself in a moment of unawareness. And that leads us to the next lesson. A lesson about how to maintain peace in stillness. Because sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and for others is to say nothing at all. Lesson 4. Let the fire burn out. When you have learned to pause and observe your emotions, the next lesson is to stop adding fuel to the emotional fires that come from others. Life will always bring moments when people get angry with you. They may throw hurtful words at you. They may scold you. They may blame and accuse you. They may shoot sharp arrows of speech straight into your heart. And our natural reaction is often to retaliate with anger equal to or stronger than theirs. We want to prove we are right. We want to fight their anger with our own. But the Buddha taught a profound truth. Hatred never ends by hatred. Only love ends hatred. If someone brings fire to you and you bring fire back, the flames will only grow bigger, and you will also get burned. The anger of others is like a torch in full blaze. When they hand it to you through harsh and bitter words, you have two choices. One is to grab it and burn your own hands. The other is to look at it and refuse to take it. If you do not take it, that flame will eventually die because it has no more fuel. Imagine a storm raging outside a house. If you keep your doors closed and remain still inside, the storm will pass and you will remain safe. But if you open the doors wide, the wind and rain will rush in and leave you trembling and hurt. The anger of others works the same way. When they lose control, when they let their emotions attack you, they are really fighting with the pain inside themselves. You do not have to walk into that storm with them. You may ask, but what if they are clearly wrong? What if they insult me? If I stay silent, will they think they are right? But pause for a moment. When you do not react, it does not mean you agree with them. It means you refuse to hand over the control of your emotions. You choose peace instead of a meaningless victory in a pointless argument. A victory gained by sacrificing your inner peace is not a true victory at all. Think of a situation in your home or workplace. Someone is extremely upset because of something in their day. They turn to you and say something unfair. You can feel they are hurting, they are tired, they are disappointed with their own life. But because you are near, they unload everything onto you. If at that moment you argue or strike back, the two fires collide and burn even stronger. But if you simply look at them with understanding, stay silent and breathe deeply, they may become confused. And a few minutes later, they may realize their own behavior. They will feel relieved because you did not make things worse. Not responding is not weakness. It is maturity. It is when you do not let the ego speak before your heart. It is when you ask yourself, what do I truly want right now? A heated confrontation, or a space where both of us can calm down. We have all argued fiercely over something that later we realized was not worth losing our peace over. When you do not join another person's anger, you send a clear message. You are not here to play the game of who can shout louder. You are not their opponent. You are not entering the battlefield, and so the other person must deal with their own anger. In that moment, they begin to realize that anger does not help them control anything. It only makes them lose control of themselves. If someone gives you a gift and you do not accept it, that gift still belongs to them. If someone gives you an insult and you do not take it into your heart, that insult still belongs to them. You are not the emotional trash bin of anyone. You do not have to carry what does not belong to you. All you need to do is stay still and let the fire burn out on its own. When you learn this lesson, you will discover that silence becomes a beautiful and invisible power. A power that the other person cannot resist. A power modern life desperately needs. Because sometimes the most healing thing you can offer someone in pain is not fancy words or clever responses. It is a silence filled with peace and clarity. And that is exactly what leads us to the next lesson. A lesson about the silence of the wise and how silence can become the most powerful voice in any conversation. Lesson 5. Silence speaks louder. In the previous lesson, we understood that when we refuse to take the burning torch of someone else's anger, the flame naturally dies out. And in that exact moment, silence becomes an incredibly powerful force. But silence here is not bitter endurance or emotional suppression. The silence the Buddha taught is a silence rooted in wisdom, a silence that protects your peace and integrity, a silence that harms no one yet allows everything to become clearer. When someone attacks you with false accusations, if you immediately fight back, you are stepping into their game. You turn yourself into an opponent in a battle of egos. But if you stay silent, you take a step back into the space of wisdom. You see the whole picture instead of drowning in the small details. The other person expects you to react. They expect you to get angry. They expect you to lose your calm so they have something to hold against you. But you break all of their expectations with complete composure. And in that moment, they become confused. They suddenly do not know how to steal your peace anymore. The first benefit of silence is that it preserves your energy. Anger and defensive emotions consume a great deal of mental and physical strength. You may feel exhausted for an entire day because of an argument that lasted only a few minutes. You carry that heaviness into your work, into your sleep, and sometimes into relationships that had nothing to do with the conflict. When you stay silent, you remind yourself that peace is more valuable than winning an argument. You refuse to sacrifice your inner harmony for a few seconds of ego satisfaction. The second benefit is clarity. When two people are angry, neither can see the truth. Everything is covered by the fog of emotion. But if one person stops, that person can see the root. That person realizes the anger of the other is not necessarily directed at them. It may come from a deep pain inside that person. Maybe they have just experienced something sad. Maybe they feel powerless in their own life. And you just happen to be the closest person for them to release their frustration onto. The third benefit is that silence disrupts the other person's expectations. When someone raises their voice at you, they expect you to raise yours too. If you do exactly what they think, the situation escalates and they will say, "See, I knew it. You are always like this." But if you simply look at them calmly, they are forced to face their own energy. No one can fight with someone who refuses to fight back, and that creates space for reason to return. Imagine a simple moment at home. You come back after a long, tiring day. A loved one complains about something small. You are about to snap back, but then you remember this lesson. You take a deep breath. You let them speak. When they settle down, you gently say, "I know you are worried or upset about something. Let us sit down and talk when we are both calm." In that moment, not only do you keep your peace, but the other person also feels understood. The situation is resolved gently instead of turning into a meaningless battle. Silence is also a way of respecting yourself. You do not need to prove your worth every time you are doubted. Not everyone sees the good you have done, and not everyone needs to understand you. Those who understand you do not need an explanation. Those who do not want to understand will not be convinced by one. So sometimes silence is the choice that helps you maintain your dignity. However, silence does not mean suppressing your emotions or letting others trample your boundaries. Silence is not enduring forever. Silence is giving yourself time to observe and understand what is happening. When you are calm and clear, you can say a short, direct, and gentle sentence to protect your boundaries. Silence is preparation for your voice to carry more strength, not the removal of your right to speak. The Buddha often chose silence in response to questions filled with traps and prejudice. He clearly understood that words are not always the path to wisdom. Sometimes silence is the very way to lead others back to themselves. A mindful master knows that words not rooted in inner peace only add more chaos to the world. And once you understand the true power of silence, you will no longer fear it. Your heart expands. You listen more deeply. You connect with life through conscious pauses. That is when you see yourself more clearly. You see the world more clearly. And that brings us to the next lesson. Because to truly be silent, you must be able to accept what is beyond your control without resisting it. Only when the mind stops fighting reality can true stillness be born within you. And that is the foundation of the next lesson. Acceptance as the path that ends all suffering. Lesson 6. Acceptance ends suffering. After we have understood the power of silence, after we have learned that reacting is not always necessary to protect ourselves, the next lesson is one of the most fundamental teachings of the Buddha. It is the foundation that ends suffering at its very root. It is acceptance. Acceptance is not surrender. It is not giving up or letting things turn negative. Acceptance is the willingness to face the truth of the present moment without resisting it. Because what causes us suffering is not the situation itself, but the belief that the situation should be different. Pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is a choice. For example, when it rains, your body gets wet. That is a fact that cannot be denied. But if your mind becomes annoyed, resists, complains, and keeps thinking that you do not deserve this discomfort, then you create a second layer of suffering. The suffering from mentally fighting what is already happening. In other words, we do not suffer because we are wet. We suffer because we do not want to be wet. The Buddha taught that when we reject reality, we attach ourselves to suffering. When we accept what is happening, whether it is joyful or painful, the heart becomes lighter. Because there is no longer a battle with something that cannot be changed. There is a powerful lesson in dealing with those who hurt us. If someone does something painful to you, the fact is they did. But the mind says, they should not have done that to me. They should not speak like that. They need to understand me. We argue with reality by asserting that reality is wrong. And the moment we do that, suffering arises. If we simply tell ourselves, this is what is happening. I do not like it. But it is happening. The mind softens its resistance. And in that moment, we see ourselves and our emotions more clearly. Acceptance does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. It is the first step to having enough clarity to make a wise decision. If someone repeatedly hurts you, acceptance means acknowledging that this is who they are right now. From there, you can set new boundaries, not trying to twist them into the version you wish they were. A relatable example is in loving relationships. Many people suffer because they expect the one they love to always understand them, to always be on time, to always speak kindly. But the person you love is also human. They have moments of exhaustion, mistakes, carelessness, and battles with their own emotions. If your happiness depends on the perfection of an imperfect human, you will constantly feel disappointed. Acceptance allows us to see the truth. They are not perfect. The relationship is not perfect. I am not perfect. But we are all trying our best to get through each day. When acceptance arises, love becomes lighter. No demands, no pressure, no turning joy into heaviness. Acceptance is also a gift you give to yourself. If you constantly blame yourself for past failures or beat yourself up over mistakes already made, you are creating that second layer of suffering. Instead of saying, I should never have messed up, ask yourself, what did I learn from this? How did I grow because of this? Accepting your past mistakes allows you to stop fighting with the shadow of who you used to be. No one walks forward without stumbling. No one grows up without doing things they later wish they had not done. But if we use the past as a weapon to hurt ourselves, we will stay stuck there. Forgiving yourself is one of the hardest acts of acceptance, but also one of the greatest liberations. When you say, "I did the best I could with the awareness I had at that time," you give your heart a chance to heal. One day, you will look back at yourself today and say, "I was brave for not giving up. I walked through the storm to understand my own heart. I learned to accept myself with all my wounds and mistakes, and that is a powerful step in the journey of healing." Another important aspect. Acceptance does not mean you must stay where you are hurt. Accepting that someone cannot love you well may mean you allow yourself to leave. Accepting that an environment drains you may mean you allow yourself to find a new path. Acceptance helps you stop resisting truth, so you can make decisions from peace instead of fear. Acceptance is courage, the courage to face what you do not want to see, the courage to let go of what you have held too tightly, the courage to admit that you cannot control everything. Someone leaves. A door closes. A plan fails. A promise is forgotten. Acceptance helps us understand that life does not operate according to our personal desires, but it always operates to teach us what we need to learn. If you keep forcing everything to follow your expectations, you will become exhausted by constantly fighting the current of life. But when you learn to flow with awareness, life becomes much lighter. You can begin with one simple phrase. This is what is. This is what is happening. I breathe with it. I accept it. I do not need it to change color for me to be peaceful. And as you practice acceptance day by day, you will feel suffering melt away from within. You will understand that life never intended to hurt you. Life is shaping you to be soft and strong, like water. Acceptance is the path that helps you stop tormenting yourself. Stop expecting others to change just to satisfy your mind. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead ask, "What can I do next to continue moving forward?" The journey of acceptance takes time. It requires many deep breaths and a great deal of compassion for yourself. But each time you choose acceptance over resistance, you take one big step away from suffering. And eventually, you will realize that the things that once hurt you no longer have the same power. The words that once kept you awake will now only create a small ripple before you return quickly to peace. You gradually become someone who observes better, someone who pauses before reacting, someone who chooses silence when needed, someone who lets go of expectations, someone who loves without clinging. This is the foundation that allows you to become a person untouched by external chaos. And for this to become your natural way of being, one more lesson remains. A lesson about the power of steady daily practice. Because peace is not a miracle that suddenly arrives. Peace is built one mindful moment at a time as you return to yourself again and again. And now we move into the final lesson to understand this fully. Lesson 7. Focused energy. Rewired mind. When you have learned how to let go of attachment, when you have learned to observe instead of absorb, when you have learned to pause before reacting, when you have learned to let the fire of anger die out and to use wise silence, when you have learned to accept rather than resist what is unpleasant, all of these become a very important foundation, but a foundation alone is not enough. We must build upon it every single day, because without repetition, without practice, the mind can still be pulled back into old patterns. If peace is to become a natural reflex, it must be nourished constantly. The Buddha taught that every habit is formed by repetition. The mind is like soil. Whatever seed you plant often, that seed will grow the strongest. If you plant the seed of anxiety, you will live in restlessness. If you plant the seeds of doubt and judgment, you will live in dissatisfaction. But if you plant seeds of peace every single day, you will gradually become someone who is not easily shaken by life's storms. Imagine a drop of water falling onto a stone. A single drop cannot change anything. But if that drop continues day after day, over time it can pierce even solid rock. Our mind is the same. Small but consistent changes can create huge transformation. Even just one mindful breath amid chaos. Even just one moment where you choose silence instead of conflict. Even just one loving thought instead of judgment. Each of those moments softens your heart. Each of those moments trains your mind into a new way of living, a peaceful way of living. You may think that you must become perfectly calm immediately for it to count as success. But in truth, each time you fail, you learn more about yourself. You only need to return again when you lose control, when anger slips out, when the mind reacts again. Do not condemn yourself. Do not think that all your previous efforts were wasted. Gently remind yourself. Begin again. Start from the beginning with one mindful breath. That alone means you are still practicing. You can start with a very simple exercise, at least 10 times a day. Pause for a moment and observe your breath. You can do this while waiting at a red light, while standing in line, while walking up the stairs. When you notice emotions starting to rise, instead of reacting out of habit, return to your breath, place your hand on your chest and remember, my mind can be calm even when the world outside is chaotic. You can also write small reminders to carry with you. For example, I am not controlled by emotions. I have the power to choose peace. My peace cannot be taken away by anyone. Every time you read these words, you are sending positive messages to the mind. Those messages will gradually change familiar pathways. Reactive thinking will slowly shift into wise thinking. If you have time, spend a few minutes each day reflecting on yourself. Not to judge, but to understand why you reacted the way you did. What triggers you the most? What fear lies beneath each burst of anger? Every time you understand yourself better, you remove another thorn from your heart. You become less affected by the outside world, and more like a mountain standing firm. Remember that in every situation you always have a choice. You can choose to become the storm, or choose to be the observer of the storm. You can choose to carry anger and burn everything around you, or choose to let anger fade outside the boundary of your peace. You can choose to fight against life, or choose to move with it through awareness and love. This choice is not something you make once in your life. It happens every day, every hour, every minute, every second. And the most beautiful part is that you do not need to be perfectly successful. You only need to keep returning to yourself. Every failure is a step forward, just like the drop of water falling steadily on the stone. Even if you do not see the result immediately, transformation is happening silently and deeply within you. Some days, peace will come easily. Other days, a single careless comment can shake you. That is normal. We are human. We have emotions, and emotions help us understand our own hearts more clearly. When you learn to accept even the days you are not okay, your mind grows a little stronger. You are gradually becoming the version of yourself you once hoped you could be. A version who stands firmly in life. A version who cannot be easily controlled by the outside world. A version for whom peace has become a natural reflex. And when peace becomes a reflex, you can hardly be triggered anymore, because your mind has roots too deep to be swept away by temporary winds. At this point, you begin to see yourself as a mountain rising proudly beneath the sky. Even when storms arrive, even when thunder roars, the mountain remains. It does not argue with the storm. It does not react to the lightning. It simply stands with strength rooted deep within. And the storm always passes, while the mountain remains, calm and unwavering. Only one more step remains on this journey, a step that allows you to recognize you have truly transformed from the inside out, a step that helps you see clearly that real power was never out there. It has always been within you, and it is time for us to move to the conclusion, the part that helps you connect everything you have learned and step into life with a heart full of strength and love. Because from now on, you are no longer just a learner. You have become the one who creates peace within yourself. Now, you have completed this entire journey, from instinctive reactions to mindful observation, from clinging to what others think to discovering freedom within your own mind, from emotional storms to a peace as still as a quiet lake. You have learned how to pause, how to stay silent at the right moment, how to let anger burn out on its own, how to accept instead of resist reality. Remember this: you are no longer a leaf that can be blown away by any passing wind. You are the mountain standing firm through every change in life. Only you can decide what is allowed to enter your heart. And as long as you continue practicing one mindful breath at a time, peace will no longer be something you have to search for. It will become the place you return to every single day. Practice step by step, and you will truly be free.